Welcome, class, to the Comparison Theorists uh, essay. Just want to kind of go over a few things with everybody here and also show an example of a well-written essay so you have an understanding of what the requirements are. So the directions actually give you a good outline, and I'll show you in the essay. But here, after you write an introduction, you'll want to do background of demographics, a history, presenting of the problem, analysis of problem, and alternative analysis of a problem. Now, these five are actually, this outline you see here is actually explained here. So for demographics, here's demographics. For personal history, you're going to write and discuss this stuff about personal history. And then when you get to presenting of the problem, you're going to go into the detail, oops, number 3 here, and enter this one. Now, 4 and 5 is definitely going to take, and I'll show you in a second where, in the example, that you're going to use resources to help you from, the not just resources, but the theorists, Freud, Horney, Adler, Young, to actually explain the behavior and the psychological issues. So make sure you make that correlation between the two. All right. You're going to have to also use sources to show proof of your character as well. You cannot just write based off of just knowledge or personal knowledge. You have to cite that too. I'll show you that in a second. You have to have at least 2 to 3 scholarly sources. So the book can count for one, but you got to have a second scholarly source with it. And on top of that, you're not only going to have to use the 2 scholarly sources, but you're also going to have to reference and cite where you got the information about your character. So I'll show you the example in a second, okay? And you have to use the APA template that you see attached to the post. So let me go over an example for you. So this is a template, and of course, I'm going over one of the students that I have. They usually do something like Dexter or Harry Potter, but this is just an example of using Harry Potter. And of course, you're going to put your name and date. You're going to fill it out like this on the top. Again, make sure you have an introduction. All academic essays have an introduction. Okay, so you have to give a thesis statement in the introduction. Okay, so don't miss that out. Don't miss out on that. Now, a little brief history, and of course, remember this essay has to be within a word count, and the word count is over 1,000, under 1,500, so 1,000 to 1,500. No quoting, by the way, because quoting is actually against it goes against the word count, and then you can get stuck over quoting, so make sure you're paraphrasing everything. So notice how this starts out here. Harry Potter is a fictional character written about the Harry Potter book series. It's just a little demographic history. There's no questions. You're not going to say, who's Harry Potter? Or ask any questions. Asking questions illustrate a lack of control on the part of the writer. So you want to give just a little background history. Now notice how this is cited by somebody. Now, this citation actually comes from, if you scroll down here, is actually the correct citations where it's actually the book series. Okay, so usually you'll cite Rowling's because they're the main writer. Okay, so that's basically the rule. So, and the et al. Indicates that there's more than one. So you'll see that there's 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can jump straight to et al. By the rule instead of writing all their names out. But each paragraph, as you notice here, has a citation because you're talking about Harry Potter or you're talking about your character. And when you place a citation at the end of a paragraph, this indicates that everything in here comes from that source. That's only if you use the one source. So if I would use Rowling's and another article, I can't do this in this paragraph because I have 2 different sources being used in the same paragraph. But if I'm only using Rowling et al. As a source in just this paragraph, or even in just these other paragraphs, then I can put it at the end of the paragraph. Okay, but notice how this is nice and tight. it stays in double spacing in the format. It goes over the actual character, okay? And there's a summary of it. That's fine. That's going to happen in this. So when you're presenting the problem, you're also going to go over a little bit more of the problem itself. But now, when you get to the end of this section, presenting a problem, you should be done exhausting the actual uh, analysis of the character. You should be done by that by now. And you shouldn't be discussing new things. But if you look in this paragraph, there's a couple things cited. The book cited. Also, Noel Smith is cited because they're talking about the different things. Now, when you talk about these things, you want to make sure you're making a connection between what the theory is saying in analysis with the characters. So you don't want to just mention Freud applies. You want to discuss how Freud applies. So notice how there's a little bit of a discussion right here about how the psychoanalysis is seen in this character, and then they go into a little bit of the explanation connecting it. So there should be both, but you got to be able to explain what these theory, how the theory actually supports your claim in this. Okay, so don't just come in and say it's Freud or whatever. Make sure you make it, a part of it, a part of the analysis. Okay. Now in this one right here, you see it's a really good discussion, and they go over some of the things like Freud might say, this is a good analysis right here. Freud might say, and states something that Freud might do because there's something about Freud, and if you keep reading, that talks about the connection between Freud's theory and Harry Potter and the other characters. Okay, so you're going to pick at least one in here, an analysis, and then the alternative analysis is in this one, and it says here, another psychologist, and it talks about Carl Jung and talks about how there's collective unconscious and goes into these analysis. It discusses this theory, doesn't just say Carl Jung, it discusses this theory, gives the answer to what's going on with the theory, specific instances in the theory, a good analysis, and then makes a connection to the behavior of the character. So you're not just saying, Carl Jung psychoanalysis theory fits collective unconsciousness, and then that's it. Don't just state that and go into more of Harry Potter or your character because you already overkilled discussing the character itself, if that makes sense, which it does. So as you see here, this is a pretty good length one, and there's a conclusion too, and then the reference page as well. You have to reference the show. You have to make sure you reference the articles, the book. There might be some things in here that this individual has 4 sources. I would say 4 sources is good, even though it says 2 to 3, because you got to think about you're going to be actually using the book, another resource, and the show, and you probably have another one that might help explain things. But just look how nice and neat this is addressed. If you notice, go back into the directions, you see the main headings separating each section they're writing about, and how it's in multiple paragraphs, not one long paragraph in each section. So this is just really good, nice and neat and clean, and this is what it should look like. So remember, you can use an outside source to discuss the character. I would use the actual show, like how this is given in Harry Potter. Use the actual reference to the show. I'd rather have you do that than a website. And then make sure you reference it in sight. And this is what it would look like. So, you can pause in between and read through things and just kind of see how it is. And pick your own character. Harry Potter is one person, one character is chosen. I've had students use so many different characters throughout the years. So it's up to you what you want to use. So I hope this has helped out a little bit. If you have any questions, please let me know.